Part 75. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 750. The atmosphere at the scene froze for a moment. Li Jian smiled awkwardly, and said, "Anywhere, the company has a development plan for the company. This matter is not compulsory, and our development is also very good. It should help. To support the development of some cities, I have always emphasized that in the production link, try to go out as much as possible. We mainly consider the port and supporting facilities. Of course, the headquarters must be based in Shenzhen and face the world," Lu Feng said to Li Jian. "It's just that there are no familiar people there. I don't know if I can provide some help in this regard. We hope to open a factory there and expand production capacity, because I am afraid that people who are unfamiliar there will not be able to communicate well." Oh, this. Li Jian really didn't want to care. Although it is normal for companies to open factories outside, as long as the headquarters is here, all aspects of taxation will definitely not escape. Of course, I don't expect it now. Jiafeng pays taxes electronically. The key is that you don't feel good about sending it out yourself. Didn't you say that if you have any difficulties, just say it? Seeing that he didn't want to help, Lu Feng hurriedly raised his eyebrows. "Mr. Lu, I'll talk to you about this. It's easy to talk about it." Deputy Mayor Lu hurriedly helped out the siege. Lu Feng knew that he couldn't even talk to Vice Mayor Lu, so he said, "This factory is really in a hurry, there is no need to talk with Vice Mayor Lu. After talking, you have to report to the top. Today it's just right, because of the outbreak of the market, the situation we are facing is relatively urgent. This year, we plan to build a large factory to meet the production capacity of the next 10 years, which is a very good thing for China." Seeing that Li Jian couldn't hide, he pondered for a while and said, "I can ask you about this matter. I think it is a good thing, greater expansion, better products, a broader market, and can serve more people." Lu Feng didn't know if he was joking, or if he really wanted to help. He said, "We only found out when we were calculating production capacity later in the year. Because of this, I haven't had a good year for years. This thing will to decide whether Jiafeng Electronics will soar into the sky or fall into the ground. If you can't give an answer here, I can only find another way." Looking for another way? There is no need to say who he can find. Li Jian's expression changed, and he patted Lu Feng's shoulder with a smile and said, "Since it's a good thing, I think you should be very welcome there, not to mention that you are now an outstanding scientific and technological innovation in the country. Private enterprises should also take care of it. We can communicate and negotiate with there, and give you feedback on the specific situation." "Thank you so much, you are really a good leader who serves the people." Lu Feng held Li Jian's hand with a smile on his face, and said happily, "Let's leave a phone call. If there is any situation, I will find you more convenient then." Li Jian didn't want to let Lu Feng harass him. He still knew this person very well, because he mentioned the supplementary opinion on the National Investment Promotion Policy. He clearly used a word in it, called Lu Feng's way to get rich. They demanded that people like Lu Feng be strangled in the bud. Moreover, this type of enclosure for loan model has caused great social injustice, and has not given a good impetus to the development of enterprises. Don't watch Lu Feng get the money and go to work. After most of the related households get the funds, 99% of them eat, drink, and have fun. What's more, Li Jian also knows that this young man is shameless and can do anything. He has never been in contact with him, just because he is afraid of repeating the mistakes of Huang Youwei. There are many enterprises in Shenzhen, and he does not rely on him to stand alone. Naturally, it will not be favored by leaders. Our door is always open like a law-abiding company. As long as you come, you can see me. Contact information is not so important, right?" Li Jian raised the glass again and said, "I sincerely hope that you can more outstanding private enterprises like Jiafeng Electronics have emerged. Cheers." Lu Feng picked up the glass and drank it. The atmosphere at the scene was much better. The others whispered quietly, "What kind of character is this Lu Feng?" The words just now were completely forced. "I heard, it's the son-in-law," someone whispered. "Son-in-law? Whose son-in-law? Then how do I know?" These words reached Lu Feng's ears, but he didn't take it seriously. The more people thought that they really had a backer behind them, the better. We ate a little more for lunch. Today, as the only private enterprise, Lu Feng is definitely a special existence. According to the original idea, Legend planned to have a good chat. After all, this is a highlight moment for the development of privatization, and it is also for those state-owned enterprises. Leaders, take a look, don't think that if you don't work hard, no one will work hard. But the problem is, he was really a little afraid of Lu Feng, and with a little politeness, he climbed up the pole. If there is no pole, he would have to come over to build a ladder himself. This kind of person makes him very helpless. As if his emotional intelligence is not high, he casually said that he would be a guest at home when he was free, and he would dare to tell you, "Tomorrow, what I like to eat, you can prepare it." Lu Feng also knew in his heart that he was not in Suzhou, and he was not a baby at home. People won't hold it in their hands like Huang Youwei. Taking advantage of this opportunity, they can get some points, otherwise they won't even be able to get Mao. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng drove back to the company. On the way back, he had already thought about it. If Li Jian didn't help, he would have to call to remind him. The company has already entered the normal operation. The period after the year is the off-season of home appliances. The corresponding advertising and marketing should be started to prepare for the hot season. Du Guoying also recruited more than a dozen people to form the Jiexun Pager marketing department, but most of the people and resources needed to rely on the headquarters. In just a few days, he became acquainted with some people in the top management. Even Zhu Lidong felt that this person was a good person, and he spoke and acted very well. Lu Feng has also been paying attention to him without too much interference. Liukan took the team to the Dongguan factory to conduct the first production debugging. The overall design has been drawn, and the next step is trial production. Because the technology is relatively mature, the experiment time is short. The technical patents of Ruxin Laboratory are not only radio technology, but the most expensive ones are integrated chips and digital communication. However, with the radio technology of a pager, it is only tens of millions of yuan, and Lu Feng does not. Will go to great lengths to buy it. Once the pager is on the ground, the R/U0026D team will run non-stop towards the 2 avenues of integrated chips and digital communication, which is also the main route for future development. Lu Feng still has ideas for Ruxin Laboratory. He wants to revive the laboratory in Sweden and become an overseas base. After GFN Electronics has a certain reputation in the world, it can compete with some current international second-class companies. Manufacturer cooperation, such as Nokia. As for the expectation of integrated chips, he can only produce integrated chips for TV sets by himself first, and supply other domestic manufacturers at the same time. In short, Lu Feng is not willing to only compete with his peers. He wants to climb the upstream industry chain and become a group of people's dad. In the afternoon, in the municipal office, Legend looked at Vice Mayor Lu sitting at the desk and asked, "Do you think GFN Electronics is doing this? Should I help or not?" This. Deputy Mayor Lu didn't know what to say, because no matter what he said, it was wrong. "I don't want to help. He has said that the main production plant in the future will be the big one. What is the most important thing to protect now? Of course, it is employment, but since he chose Tianjin, it means that he has decided there. It is nothing more than money. Whether it is enough or not is a question of whether the policy is hard or not." "Yes," Deputy Mayor Lu nodded. "I'm so suffocated, Go, I feel uncomfortable, don't go, he must be endless. There is a saying that this person is quite accurate, he is a piece of shit flavored cake, indeed a cake, but it doesn't taste right. Li Jen sighed, a little worried. Why don't you drag it? Deputy Mayor Li asked tentatively. Procrastinate? Other companies can procrastinate, but GFN Electronics can procrastinate? There is only such an excellent innovative private enterprise in the country, and it has been named and praised. Besides, what does it have to do with him? If he does not do it, he will be scolded. Who? What's your consciousness? Li Jen said in an angry tone. Yes, yes, then help him ask for some conditions. Vice Mayor Lu changed his words. What's my status? What's my status in Tianjin? This, what's your brain? Deputy Mayor Lu wanted to cry. Then what should I do? Deputy Mayor Lu was helpless. Look at you, if there is a problem, you won't be able to use your brain, you just know to ask me, I don't do anything all day long. I want you to sit in this position to solve problems, not transfer them. Li Jen scolded for a long time, sighed and said, I'm inconvenient to come forward, you can come forward. Don't let it know that I know about it. When it's done, you can report it to me. Okay, I'll do it now. Deputy Mayor Lu agreed. In your own name. After Deputy Mayor Lu left, Li Jen sat there in a daze. Lu Feng really gave him a problem. This is also one of the few solutions. The status of the cities in the two places is similar. In fact, everyone secretly compares and learns from each other. Who doesn't have the heart to be competitive? When Deputy Mayor Lu made a phone call, it was naturally different from Lu Feng's call. The call went directly to the municipal office. When the other party heard that he was going to hand over to a big factory, his mouth was crooked. Since you called on behalf of your city, it's easy to talk, let alone such a good company as GFN Electronics, right? No, I'm just representing myself. Deputy Mayor Lu explained hurriedly. I know that your place is small, and the company can't expand. It's easy to understand and talk. The other end of the phone said with a smile. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 751. For such a large project, it is easy to talk about it, but it is really hard to talk about it. It depends on who will talk about it. More importantly, GFN Electronics has obtained the status of an excellent innovative private enterprise. This is an official recognition, and many cities are vying for such companies. Deputy Mayor Lu called Lu Feng, and the preferential terms given by the other party were still very good, at least much better than ordinary enterprises. A land subsidy of 10,000 mu and a bank loan of 30 million will be used for the initial construction of the factory area. At the same time, tax exemption will be given for 3 years. After 3 years, the tax revenue of the factory area will be directly turned over to the local area, which will directly lead to employment of no less than 20,000 people. After hearing these conditions, Lu Feng had a smile on his face. This is probably the biggest advantage that can be obtained within the borderline of the policy, but he still feels a little bit of a loss. You know, in the past, when you built a factory, you could not only prostitute a factory for free, but the local area would also give a certain amount of subsidies for the introduction of the following assembly lines. It's like a farm subsidy for more than 10 years. A large piece of land is surrounded by an old man who raises 3 chickens. The house number outside reads, so and so large scale farm, 1 reason. Then I'll just contact their person in charge of investment promotion when the time comes, right? Lu Feng asked over the phone. Yes, they have a special person in charge of this matter. Vice Mayor Lu was afraid that he would do the same things before, and reminded, Mr. Lu, you are now an excellent innovative entrepreneur. When you do something, still have to pay attention to identity. I know, I have a lot of names now. I heard that I am still one of the top 10 outstanding young entrepreneurs in our city, top 10 private entrepreneurs, outstanding talents after the reform, and other red flag bearers, outstanding talents, charitable entrepreneurs, and May 1st labor prize winners. Lu Feng sat there and muttered a lot and said, I have everything in my office, most of which I didn't pick up myself. Okay, I know you've won a lot of awards. This identity is different. It's not an award given by the place, understand? I know, don't worry, I know what I have in mind. Lu Feng assured him that he hung up the phone and looked at Su Yurong with a smile on his face. You're happy, you're done. Su Yurong leaned on the sofa, turned on the TV, and said, don't you need me to find someone for you? No, there is no need for those unconventional means now. By the way, when are you going back to Xiangjiang? Lu Feng asked her. Su Yurong became annoyed when she heard this, stared at Lu Feng and said, if the matter is settled, let me go. Then you should go back to work, right? Lu Feng glanced at her and said. Wait a few more days and go to Tianjin with you. What if you encounter any moths? Su Yurong sat up and said, when are you going to go? Contact the local municipal administration in a while and set off as soon as possible, Lu Feng said solemnly. In the evening, the director of Tianjin's investment promotion office called Lu Feng. They also paid more attention to this matter. They said on the phone that they focused on supporting the development of outstanding innovative private enterprises, which was a goal they said they were pursuing. The words on the other end of the phone were sincere. Lu Feng also knew that in the domestic environment, in many cases, no matter how rich you are, you don't have a proper official identity. Of course, from a global perspective, this is a very good thing for ordinary people. After all, there are only a few rich people in this world. The taste of the year has almost disappeared, and most companies have resumed production. Liukin called and said that the first batch of 100 pagers for trial production has been offline, and they will test these 100 units. And at the same time, another 400 units will be produced in the future to detect signals, text display, standby status, etc. According to the current plan, there is no problem in carrying out full-scale production in early March, but the production line is relatively tight. I still hope to free up 2 assembly lines for production. At least one batch of goods must be stocked first. Lu Feng agreed. Pick up the car keys and head out the door. Why are you going? Su Yurong asked hurriedly when he saw that he was going out. Go to the company. Lu Feng left without looking back. Su Yurong sat there and watched her cooking. In the past 2 days, she originally thought that being a housewife would be good. She stayed at home every day, tidying up the house, and cooking. But at this moment, she didn't feel so good. Listening to the sound of the car leaving outside, she scolded a little complainingly, "Dog man. People are like this, when they are busy, they want to rest for a while, and when the rest time is long, they want to be busy again." Su Yurong is not destined to be a little woman, let her experience what Zhang Xiaoyan once experienced. Lu Feng was killed by her long ago. When he arrived at the company headquarters, Lu Feng went directly to the president's office. Wei Yandan hadn't finished get off work when he saw Lu Feng walk in and said, "What's the matter with Mr. Lu? How is the production schedule for the first quarter of this year?" Lu Feng sat down and asked her, "Show me the sales list of major products last year, and show me the production schedule." Wei Yandan called an assistant and brought 2 folders in a short while. Lu Feng looked through it for a while and found that the sales of marginal businesses were really average, such as radios, fans, air conditioners, and refrigerators. There are thousands of units per month. The sales of radios, in particular, are currently declining very sharply. Are there many products such as air conditioners, refrigerators, and washing machines in stock? Can they last for a quarter? Lu Feng asked. The sales of these products are average, so what I told the factory below is that the current production will be found, and the inventory will not be suppressed. Whichever dealer wants the product will produce it, so as not to suppress the inventory and occupy the capital pool, Wei Yandan replied. Okay, these products with poor sales will be handed over to other factories. Find an outsourced company. The factories in Dongguan and Suzhou will free up an assembly line to prepare for the production of pagers. Lu Feng put the folder together. Shangdao, just free it up in early March, don't worry, you can also get off work early. By the way, the year is over, and the morning meeting should be held. It is necessary to form a habit of early detection and early intervention for management problems. I may be going to lie down in Tianjin these 2 days, and you will be responsible for the morning meeting. Okay, President Lu, Wei Yandan agreed. Okay, that's all. Lu Feng put the folder on the table, stood up and was about to go out, suddenly remembered something, stopped and said, help me book 2 tickets to fly to Tianjin tomorrow. Back at the villa, Lu Feng found that the tableware and chopsticks had been put away. Su Yorong seemed a little angry sitting there, and Lu Feng didn't want to coax her, so he went upstairs on his own. You don't even have a word, Su Yorong couldn't help but said. Lu Feng stood on the stairs, looked back at her and said, what do you want me to say? You didn't see it, am I unhappy? She was a little pissed, sitting up straight and staring at him. Just stay if you're not happy, you'll be happy in a while. You, Su Yorong was so annoyed by him that she stood up and said, whoever lives in the same family as you, really suffers. These 2 days I have served you with kindness and kindness. I am so virtuous. Stop, stop, Lu Feng stopped her and said, what you said is like a murderer who puts down his knife and immediately says that he is the best good person in the world. Everyone is a person in the world. Don't pretend to be a little bird here, you have also enjoyed the state of a virtuous little daughter-in-law in the past 2 days. Then you can take out your 80-meter sword and continue to traverse the rivers and lakes. Su Yorong was annoyed by what he said. She stood up and walked upstairs. She walked up to Lu Feng and pushed him with her hands. She said angrily, go upstairs, what are you doing here? Enter the room. What are you doing? Vengeance on you. At 11 o'clock in the evening, Su Yorong lay lazily on the bed smoking a cigarette, and said weakly, in order to make sure nothing goes wrong, I still called Mr. Li and said that we would be there tomorrow, and there was a local person to help him. Better than a black eye. Okay, it's better than nothing, go to bed earlier. Lu Feng turned off the light by his bed and started to sleep. Su Yorong put out the cigarette butt in the ashtray on the bedside table. She felt that she was not suitable to be a housewife. A tiger is always a tiger. It can be as cute as a cat for a short time, but it is not a cat after all. The next day, at 9 a.m., Lu Feng and Su Yorong drove to the airport. As the plane took off, Lu Feng looked out the window. It had been a long time since he had been to the north. Mr. Li and I have not seen each other for a long time. He said yesterday that he prepared a lot of local specialties to entertain us. Su Yorong closed the small window, leaned on the seat and said, I remembered my time over there again. Wrong years. Don't mention it. You don't call it glorious years, it's called a criminal history. Lu Feng closed his eyes and meditated. I'm not called Su Yorong now. Besides, there's no more you. Su Yorong turned her head to look at Lu Feng and asked, I'm going to have an accident, you'll take care of me, right? Lu Feng didn't speak, everyone already had the answer in their hearts, and some things didn't need to be put on the spotlight. As the plane landed and walked out of the airport, a cold current hit the face. In the north of February, it was still the middle of winter. People who came and went put on their cotton-padded clothes, and a cold wind hit the neck. Cold wind. Lu Feng felt a little cold on his nose, and tightened his Nazai coat tightly. Su Yorong looked around, and when he saw a group of people holding a banner that read a warm welcome to President Su, he said, I am here. Here. More than 20 people walked towards the side. The scene was a bit huge for a while. The leader was a man in his 40s, with his hair parted. He said with a strong Tianjin accent, "Aya, I'm getting more and more beautiful, the style is still the same, welcome and welcome. Mr. Li is still the same, I'll introduce you." Su Yurong spoke, ready to introduce Lu Feng. President Li glanced at Lu Feng, the smile on his face disappeared, and he asked tentatively, "Lu Feng from Jiafeng Electronics. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 752. You know me. Lu Feng extended his hand politely and said, "Hello." Knowing? More than knowing, Mr. Li looked at Lu Feng with a gloomy expression, as if the two were having a holiday. Seeing his expression, Lu Feng searched for a while in his mind, but never remembered when he had offended such a person. Su Yurong noticed something and said, "Mr. Li has a relationship with President Lu. Although I haven't met each other, I have seen Mr. Lu a lot in the newspapers. The TVs of foreign brands 2 years ago were very popular. Thanks to Mr. Lu, the price was lowered, so that our group had no food to eat. Thanks to that. When Mr. Lu was trying to pick up the wool of the policy, he tried his best to pick it up, it was difficult to pay attention to it, and now it is simply not given." Mr. Li looked at Lu Feng with a gloomy expression. "In the business world here, I don't know how many people miss Mr. Lu. I'm thinking of itchy teeth." Lu Feng laughed when he heard this. Feelings are to count all these things on his head. Su Yurong hurriedly said, "You can't blame Mr. Lu for these things, he has nothing to do with it. There are thousands of businesses in the world, Mr. Li wants to make a fortune, there are doorways." The policy was tightened, and many people who used to eat while lying down began to starve. They had to find someone to vent their anger. In addition, when Lu Feng was at GMA Foodstuffs, he ran dozens of factories in one go, smashing wool frantically. The development of Feng Electronics is also inseparable from such means. How can you not hate him? Everyone was quietly cutting the meat with a knife. It was because he came with a machete, which led to the tightening of the policy. People from all over the country scold Lu Feng. "Mr. Li, you don't need to hate me. The subsidy is for gaining muscle, not for gaining fat. You can't be bullied by evil monks. Take out my baldness." "I'm very wronged," Lu Feng said with a smile. If Mr. Li knew that this time it was Lu Feng from Jiafeng Electronics, he would definitely not have such a big battle. Now that everything is arranged, even if it is not a treat, those prepared things are wasted. Now that he has cut off his financial path, the lost money has to be recovered from him. The visitor is a guest. Today, there are many friends in the business world gathering together. It is a rare opportunity. Please invite me first. After Mr. Li said, the two reception staff next to him made a request. A few people next to him whispered, "What's the matter? It doesn't seem right." Lu Feng, Jiafeng's, it's just too big, which caused the leaders above to pay attention and change the investment promotion policy. Well, he still dares to come, he is also a mouse licking a cat, just looking for excitement. Lu Feng got into a commercial car, and the car sped away toward the city. Su Yurong's expression was not very good. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "You are really offending many people." "How do I know that I can offend him if I haven't seen a single person at all?" Lu Feng said while looking at the scenery outside the window. "Fortunately, I didn't put all my bets on him." You have offended too many people. In the future, you have to be more tactful, and you can't go against the whole industry," Su Yurong taught. Lu Feng smiled and didn't say a word. He didn't say that he was going against the industry, he was advancing against the entire era. Tianjin Crystal Palace Hotel is the most famous hotel in the country. The car was parked at the door. Lu Feng got out of the car and looked at the building in front of him. He looked around and felt that it was not bad. The 15th floor banquet hall was almost full of people. The people who came today were basically related to the construction industry, or they were commercial brokers, and they all wanted to take a piece of Lu Feng. There was a lot of discussion, and they were all talking about which big company was going to enclose the land here. For such a big business, there are a lot of places that need them. As Mr. Li took Lu Feng upstairs, he introduced the customs here. Our side has a deep cultural heritage, and the best food is gaobuli steamed buns. The chefs at the Crystal Palace are definitely top-notch. In a while, you can have a good taste. There is also crosstalk. Today, I will call another one. Speaking of crosstalk, Mr. Li has a heart. It's really embarrassing to be so annoying during the Chinese New Year. Lu Feng said politely. After entering the banquet hall, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Feng. Obviously someone recognized Lu Feng, and his expression was not friendly. The sudden change of policy caused many people's projects to abort. Projects were also withdrawn, and bank loans were further tightened. Life is not easy for many people. I'm here to introduce you, President Li said to everyone. This one is the CEO of GFN Electronics Group, Mr. Lu Feng. This time he came to our side, mainly to develop on our side. All are welcome. There was applause at the scene. Lu Feng nodded quickly and said, I also hope that GFN Electronics will be here in the future, and everyone can take care of it. To be honest, I am also a northerner. I got off the plane today and felt the coolness of the north, just like returning to the country. Like home. Let's take a seat, President Li said politely. Everyone sat down one after another, and several people on the table next to each other whispered. I can hear that the tightening of the policy is because of him. Don't hear about it, it's because of him. I've seen the documents, and his name is listed on it. GFN Electronics and GMA Foods, which was his high-quality food, have encircled more than 200,000 mu of land across the country, and it's just bank loans. Took more than $1 billion. More than $1 billion. Isn't it? Someone calculated it for him. By taking the land for free and mortgaged the bank, more than 1 billion yuan is a small amount. Can the top pay attention to such a large amount? Good guy, emotionally, he's full and hungry. Never mind that, I can take a little from him. Mr. Li also had the same plan, put the previous matters aside first, earn the money first, and then sat down to introduce the people at the table to Lu Feng, and then asked, Mr. Lu intends to stay here again. Open a factory. Yes, our development speed is still relatively fast. It is expected that this year's sales will increase sharply, so it is imminent to build a large-scale factory that can meet the growth expectations in the next 10 years, Lu Feng said to everyone present. I hope everyone please help, after all, we are not very familiar with this place. Lu Feng knew that, given the current social environment, he had negotiated with the municipal government, but he still needed to deal with various ghosts and gods in order to maintain production and operation in the future. Some people are not good enough, but they can't say enough when they fail. Mr. Lu is joking, you are such a big boss, we should rely on you. I still hope that President Lu can bring everyone to eat meat and drink. As the cold dishes began to be served, everyone's wine glasses were already poured with white wine. President Li opened his mouth and said, I heard President Su say that President Li plans to build a large factory with a 10,000 mu. Yes, since you want to make it bigger. Oh, it's hard to do now. You have to buy a few hundred acres. It's easy to say, but it's not possible to tens of thousands of acres now, Mr. Li said with a worried look. This year, the policy has been tightened. I called before, Mr. Li, if you don't tell me, there is still a chance, Su Yuzong said sullenly. There is a chance, The problem is, right, you understand, Mr. Lee coughed, the land is limited. How much has been built over the years? Tens of thousands of acres are not industrial sites, it's hard to find. No matter how good you are, if you submit it, they won't dare to approve it. Lu Feng nodded and understood what he meant. He didn't do anything, and he began to imply that he was going to give confession. I didn't come here unprepared. I called the investment promotion office here before I came, and they said it was fine. Lu Feng simply showed his cards. It's useless, the people from the investment promotion office said. It doesn't matter, a middle-aged man across from him said. In this environment, what is the investment promotion office? They promised you that they would give you 10,000 mu of land. Yes, Lu Feng said. Don't believe it, there's nothing wrong. Years ago, I helped a boss to help him. They wanted 8,000 acres to get a large factory. At first, the talks went well, but then suddenly it didn't work. This year is special, the man Chao Lufeng said seriously. Does Tianluo Group in Shandong know? It's also a big industry. As soon as these words came out, I didn't know whether they were true or not, but they stunned Lu Feng and Su Yurong. Is it so difficult? Su Yurong looked at President Li and said, President Li, we are old friends. What is the specific situation? You can say directly, we don't know much about this place. Even if you want to spend money, I don't know who to give flowers to. It's not easy to handle. The previous model has been completely blocked this year. What President Lu said just now is indeed true. People are busy pulling foreign companies in now, which is the focus of future work. Recently, I also walked around, but I still gained a bit. Mr. Li smiled mysteriously and said, eat first, and chat while you eat, is the one who talks about crosstalk here. It has arrived. Hurry up and make arrangements, all the guests are here, President Li hurriedly said. Lu Feng wasn't sure about the local area either, so he said, is it related to who I'm calling? I'm here with the Shenzhen municipal government. It's no use for anyone, said the man sitting next to President Li, it's no use looking for a listed leader. This is a policy difficulty. It doesn't matter who you are, not a state-owned or private company. Hearing this, Lu Feng looked a little gloomy. He decided to make a phone call to ask, and said, I'll make a phone call first. Excuse me, I'll be right back. It's okay, President Li, I'll give you a toast, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Su Yurong picked up the glass and greeted President Li. You are now a big man from Xiangjiang. The dinner table was still lively. Lu Feng stood up and walked outside. As soon as he walked out the door, he saw a few people hurriedly walking towards the side, mumbling late, late. Both of them walked in a hurry. Suddenly, a short man bumped into Lu Feng. The other party didn't even look at him. He hurriedly said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Before Lu Feng could speak, he just glanced at him and said subconsciously, little black fatty. The little black fat man turned his head and glanced at Lu Feng, as if to say, this person is really rude. He turned his head and trotted after him. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 753. Lu Feng thought about it. It was reasonable to meet him here. He walked towards the front desk and said, do you have a phone number? Sir, this way please. Lu Feng called the local investment promotion office. Hello, is that Director Tong? Yes, what's wrong, said the big thorn on the other end of the phone. Hello, I'm the chairman of Jiafeng Electronics Group, Lu Feng. The vice mayor of Shenzhen, Lu, has contacted you before. Lu Feng began to report to his family. Mr. Lu, the voice on the other end of the phone changed and became more serious. He said, we are in charge of contacting you. Do you have any questions? Is it like this? I heard that large-scale industrial land is not approved now. Lu Feng asked bluntly. I arrived today and had dinner with a few local entrepreneurs and talked about this matter. They all said that they were very it's hard. I want to know if it's true. Who said that? Director Tong raised his voice and said, Mr. Lu, come and ask us if you can't listen to the wind and rain. You are also the boss of a large group. This, right, it should be there is. What Director Tong wanted to say was that he should understand this bit of human sophistication, but he didn't know that Lu Feng was really in a hurry. If the project fails to come to fruition for half a year, or even a year, then it will really be over. As long as there is a hint of something wrong here, Lu Feng will definitely turn around and run away. There are many companies that have been dragged down by some local municipalities. GFN Electronics can't wait. It must build the factory area at the most efficient speed, put it into production, take over Lu Feng to make a valuation of the market and assets, and invest in those gangs. People ask for money again, and this is a rotating operation that burns money. Once you can't take a breath, I'm sorry, you hang up. I just want to make sure. I'm a more direct person, and I don't know the world, so please forgive me. Lu Feng paused and asked, so, this matter can be settled quickly, right, because there really isn't much time. Don't worry, this matter is definitely going at full speed. Since you have this concern, you are here too. I will report to the leader to see and talk about it. How about it? Director Tong asked. Okay, hard work. I'm at the Crystal Palace Hotel now. Lu Feng told the other party the address and said politely, if there is any news, we can communicate with you in time. If you have time, you can sit down and have a meal together. Put your heart in your stomach, Director Tong comforted. Lu Feng hung up the phone, thinking he had a bottom line. He's not panicking. The main reason is that a city has a city's rules, and many businessmen can't play when they go to other places, but they are bound by these rules. Coupled with the exclusion of the local business community, it is difficult to succeed. In addition, it is really urgent. If it doesn't work here, Lu Feng can change the place. If it doesn't work, he can choose cities such as Suzhou and Dongguan, but Tianjin is the best choice. Back at the banquet hall, Mr. Li and Su Yurong inquired a lot about GFN Electronics. Knowing that his situation was urgent, he felt happier. The more urgent the better. Mr. Lu, sit down, sit down. Mr. Li was polite, with a smile on his face, as if he was going to the airport to pick up Lu Feng. The ugly face was not his. There is a table not far away, and two people in coats are standing there talking crosstalk. We had a conversation with Mr. Su just now. You found me, and you found the right person. It's really impossible for ordinary people to do this, because I used to run the dock and I often deal with municipal people. I know them well and eat often. Mr. Li said, smoking a cigarette. I had dinner with the leaders of the Water Conservancy Bureau last night. In terms of connections, President Li said this. The man next to him gave a thumbs up and said, no one dares to question it. This is not a trivial matter, 10,000 acres of land. Of course, we also know that Lu is always a veteran in this field, but now the wind is not right. I can't eat that set. Yes, it's very tight right now, there's no ironclad relationship. Can you handle it? Last year, didn't Mr. Li help a boss to set up a factory of 2,000 acres? It's all trivial. Brothers give face, come out to hang out, you take care of me, I take care of you, right? Mr. Li's face was full of pride, smoking a cigarette. It seemed that these compliments made him very face. He turned towards Lu. Feng said, Mr. Lu, this matter is on our shoulders. Generally speaking, it's kind of fun to be busy with this kind of thing. But I think you are a good person. I am very refreshing, really, as long as you feel it's comfortable to chat with you, and I don't want a penny. It can be seen that Li is always a person who likes to make friends, Lu Feng said with a smile. Absolutely, my friends are all over the country. I take you as a brother, and you have to take me as a brother. What's the matter? The priority is given to the brothers present. For example, if you want to build a factory, the present, but they are all businessmen in this field, since they are brothers, they will definitely do a good job for you, and the price will definitely be the lowest. Mr. Li insisted towards Lu Feng. When Lu Feng heard this, he grinned. 4 brothers, who can have a deep friendship with them? Mr. Lu, let's just talk about cement. I run a cement factory. If someone else comes here, a bag of cement costs 80 cents. When you come to your place, brother, I'll give you the price of 50 cents. All these friends around Boss Li are all the best. My good brothers are all from my own family, do you understand? The square-faced man on the opposite side was particularly loud. Yes, yes, I definitely believe in this. What you rely on when you go out is your friends. Lu Feng picked up the glass and said, I'll have a drink with everyone. Everyone stood up and touched the quilt. Su Yorong stood aside and quietly pulled Lu Feng's sleeve, wanting to remind him, but Lu Feng looked at her and smiled. After everyone drank it, Lu Feng coughed the burning feeling in his throat and said, there is a problem, I just called. They didn't agree. Let me tell you, it's one thing for you to make a phone call in Shenzhen, and another thing for you to call here. President Li said with an old fritter's attitude, these are their usual tricks, it's hard to deal with someone like you. Everyone agreed, and they almost described the local municipal administration as a Longtan tiger den. As long as they entered, they would not be able to get out. What I want to say is that they agreed on the phone, and they were the same as before, Lu Feng said to everyone. Mr. Li was stunned for a moment. He was not trying to scare Lu Feng. They did help many companies ask questions about industrial land this year. No matter who they were looking for, the responses were the same. In terms of attracting investment, domestic companies do not approve large-scale industrial land. How did it become a promise to Lu Feng? Impossible. Absolutely impossible, Li always said to Lu Feng with 10 million disbelief, you heard it wrong, you must have heard it wrong, or he lied to you. You said you belonged to Jiafeng Electronics. Is Lu Feng gone? Say it. By the way, you already said it, and they still approved it for you. Has he been sitting in that position for a long time? Don't you know your identity? Mr. Li asked Lu Feng with a frown. What's my identity? The people at the dinner table burst into laughter. In the enclosure, there is no municipal government in the country who doesn't know about Lu Feng, but he has been named. I'm not trying to scare you. If he dares to grant you 10,000 mu of industrial land, he will go down before the seal is put down. Mr. Li leaned on the chair and smoked a cigarette and said, you have to look at me. Don't think that, brother, I'm playing tricks with you here. What age is it now? Making friends depends on sincerity. For sincerity, you know. That's it, Lu Feng nodded. We are just looking at Mr. Su's face, and we are pure friends to help. It's not that we are trying to fool people here. I dare to assure you that except me, look for it all over Tianjin. There is no other person who can do it for you. What Mr. Li said was extremely decisive. Su Yorong picked up the glass and said, then I have to drink one with President Li. Come on, girl, let me tell you, it's all about me, and it's all about your face. I also spread it out and said, everyone has to earn money to support their family, don't you think? Yo, Mr. Li, you've already made a living, then the others would have starved to death. I understand that they're all in the wine. Su Yorong picked up the glass and drank it. I didn't mean to be angry with you. He even went out and called the investment promotion office to ask. He didn't take face so badly, it was because of your face. Boss Li had already had feelings for Lu Feng. Originally wanted to earn money happily, but Lu Feng didn't cooperate at all. The more he talked, the more angry he was. He put down the wine glass in his hand, rushed to Lu Feng and said, you are really blessed by this good sister. I am just like this, but you came to me alone. I tell you, it's hard to do. Don't look like I'm cheating on you, I'll tell you, I'm helping you. How many people can't catch up, do you understand? Yes, yes, don't be angry, it's not a big deal, Su Yorong persuaded. He doesn't understand the world at all. There is such a style. As soon as I told him, he turned around and called the investment promotion office. What am I doing? Mr. Lee became more and more angry. They have persuaded them, and if they want to make money from him, they will endure it for a while. Lu Feng picked up the chopsticks on the table, ate 2 mouthfuls of dishes, and said unhurriedly, I also understand the world. Mr. Lee has worked so hard to help me and told me so much, I'm really grateful. You are obviously a broker, but it's not appropriate to pretend to be a teacher to point out the country. Besides, isn't the worldly manners just pretending? When I face you, I really don't bother to pretend. It's mainly sincerity, we are all our own people. Su Yorong helped out the siege. It's him who doesn't deserve it. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 754. As soon as Lu Feng said these words, the table was instantly cold, and there were only 2 cross-talkers standing in front of the table not far away. Ban balls, tofu balls. Lu Feng, are you a little shameless? Mr. Lee stared at Lu Feng with a gloomy expression. He sat sideways on the chair, facing Lu Feng, with one hand on the back of the chair and the other on the table, hands next to the dishes. The whole posture is quite depressing, as if the next moment will be violent and hurt. What are you, don't you know in your heart? Look down on us? What qualifications do you have to look down on? You are the first to do the activity of enclosing land for funds. This account hasn't been counted against you yet. Mr. Lee, it's not a big deal, let's clear the fire, it's a big New Year's Eve. Su Yorong hurriedly smoothed things out. Lu Feng stretched out his hand and pressed Su Yorong's hand down, and said to President Lee, the tightening of the policy above is a matter of the above, you dare not look for trouble from above, find fault with me. Besides, help me. Me. He, buddy, your cement is 50 cents a bag, we both have no reason, you are so good to me, can you make money? I'm also taking a measure. They are all brothers. They said that the money is out of the way. The other party looked embarrassed. Don't make money, work in vain. Lu Feng leaned on the chair, picked up the cigarette in front of him, lit one and said, you treat people like this with a big fanfare. I know why. I know the local environment here. I don't know much about it, but I think that the local Thorns and related households are almost here today, right? What do you want to say? Give me a nice word, Mr. Lee said flatly. This factory is very important to us. The quality requirements of the factory area are also high. I know that you are all local figures, and I also understand some of your conventional methods. Everyone knows it, so this project, everyone may there's nothing left to do. Lu Feng picked up the wine glass in front of him and said to everyone, a toast to everyone, by the way, the policy above is good, and I hope everyone can take the money in their hands and invest in some industries instead of pick up wool, then eat, drink and play, and be a manure machine. After saying this, let alone this table, the 2 tables next to it were quiet, and the voices of the 2 people standing not far away talking about crosstalk lowered their voices, as if they realized that the scene was not very good, and continued to count the balls, which was out of place. It was a passage just now, and then I will tell the bosses. President Lee laughed, and then everyone at the scene laughed. The 2 people who talked about crosstalk were happy, thinking their jokes were funny, and they said it a little harder. It was Lu Feng who made everyone laugh. He is a woolly man, and he actually puts on the face of a sage to educate them. This is simply too funny. Did you humming forget what you do? What high profile are you making? I have participated in some business forums, and I know what industry, global, human, and electronic world you are standing on stage. Li always used his finger to land Feng and said, I'll just ask you one thing, does GFN Electronics make money? No. The people at the scene laughed. Isn't he playing with a lot of momentum, going around for enclosures, using bank money, and policy money? How can he put on a face that is even more saintly than a saint to educate himself? I don't have the heart to drink this wine, so I'll tell you straight. In the current situation, without our group of people to deal with you, 10,000 mu of industrial land, you can daydream and help you find someone to help you. Money, we will do the subsequent construction of the factory, cement, construction teams, excavators, muck, gravel, steel bars, etc. Everyone here can help you. Mr. Li also spread out and said, facing Lu Feng. I guarantee you will be fine for 7 or 8 years. We may cooperate with China Construction Bureau in this regard, Lu Feng gave the answer. Then you go, there is no place for you to stand here. I tell you. It is useless even if the King of Heaven comes. Mr. Li crossed Erlang's legs and said with a gloomy face, before we leave, we have to settle the account if you are blocking our financial path. The atmosphere at the scene froze, and a young man trotted over and whispered in Mr. Li's ear, Mr. Li is here. Which Mr. Li? Li Hong. What is she doing here? As soon as the voice fell, the door of the banquet hall was pushed open, and a 37-8-year-old woman walked in. She was quite fashionably dressed, with high heels on her feet and a bag in her hand. The clothes were not heavy, but a bit like wearing autumn clothes. Now that the weather can be so fashionable, it means that you should enter the heating room when you get out of the car. It's just that her face has been engraved with traces of time, and the most eye-catching is the chest, which is flat. Mr. Li, what are you doing here? Mr. Li said. Su Yorong sat aside with her arms folded on her chest, her face tense. Obviously this Li Hong was not the person she wanted to see. I'm having dinner here. I heard that you have invited some powerful people from Xiangjiang here. Come and take a look. Oh, this is not Mr. Lu from GFN Electronics. I played in Xiangjiang the year before, and I didn't miss your news. Li Hong put a hand on Lu Feng's shoulder, glanced at Su Yorong next to him, and said, Who do I think? The fugitive is back. Who is the fugitive? Su Yorong raised his head and stared at her. Mr. Li, I haven't seen you for a few years. I heard that you don't do any business anymore. I've earned enough, I really opened my eyes today. I'm a fugitive, a fraudster, and I'm also unlucky, Li Hong said to Lu Feng, running from our realm to deceive me. Lu Feng raised his head to look at her, and said, the girls are not good people. Is it good or not, you don't have to say it, Li Hong said to Su Yorong. How did you count the batch of goods that swallowed me back then? How to calculate? Humph, Su Yorong sneered, how about going to the Public Security Bureau to calculate? This year, Mr. Li's business has been completely ruined by this guy named Lu Feng. You can also tell me about my batch of goods. Let's collect a piece today and solve it. Sister Hong is still a bit famous in this world. Everyone don't say I'm a black person, it's the two of you who don't pay attention to what you do. Li Hong lit a cigarette and took a sip and asked, how do you do it? I have to give an explanation today. Right? Things always have to be resolved. You can't eat it anymore, let the brothers drink the wind, right? The scene was chattering, as if it was impossible to walk out without a little blood today. President Li beckoned to the waiter, asked him to bring a chair over, and said, Sister Hong, sit down first. Now GFN Electronics wants to get a piece of land here and build a factory. As the saying goes, it's better to solve an enemy than to tie a knot. Take this opportunity to understand the grievances in these rivers and lakes. Lu Feng laughed when he heard this. Why would he sing black and white here? I'm not in the rivers and lakes, and even if I'm in the rivers and lakes, I'm not in the same rivers and lakes as you, Lu Feng said, knocking the ash on the table. I just want to meet some friends for this meal. Local people help each other out. Speak well, you will definitely help. I mean, leave this land to me, I will help you deal with it, and other brothers will help you after you get the land. You don't have to worry about anything, Mr. Li. He gave a plan and said, let Sister Hong also share a share. Today, everyone has a glass of wine to eliminate all the grievances. Lu Feng found that he couldn't understand it. They didn't believe it when he said death. GFN Electronics was doing real things. In their eyes, Lu Feng was just here to build a piece of land, get a local policy loan, and then make another one. Special support funds. This money is to be cashed through the construction contractor. To put it bluntly, get some bean curd, $10 of work, they will do it for you for $3, and the remaining $7 will be divided between the two sides. As for the fact that Lu Feng was really anxious to use this factory to produce things and make it bigger and stronger, they would never believe it. Because that's how they are. And the grandfather of this routine is Lu Feng. Okay, this can be considered a solution. Sister Hong smoked a cigarette, looked at Su Yorong and said, this matter, your man gave you a fight, forget it, do you really think the old lady is made of mud? At that time in Xiangjiang, the mother was going to find you. Su Yorong didn't want to fight the fire and sat there without saying a word. Sister Hong dared to be so confident, even if she killed Su Yorong and didn't dare to call the police, she had to agree to this matter today. Municipal work has resumed on the 7th day of the first lunar month, but some people haven't come yet, and everyone seems to be lazy. Director Tong knocked on the door of the office, walked in and stood in front of the desk. What's the matter? Dong Jian raised his head and asked. Secretary Dong, Lu Feng from GFN Electronics has arrived. He seems to have contacted some people in the business world and heard some rumors. Call me and ask if the land can be approved. People are eating in restaurants now, Director Tong said. Lu Feng? Oh, remember, an excellent and innovative private enterprise, right? Dong Jian asked. Yes, I want to come to our side to build a factory. The last economic meeting at the end of last year did not mean that this enterprise can be excluded from the scope, Director Tong reminded. Dong Jian put down the pen in his hand with a playful expression, and said, this person is a bit interesting. He has been named several times. Do you think he really wants to expand the strip, or is he playing the old routine? This. Director Tong didn't know what he meant, so he didn't speak. GFN Electronics seems to have spent a lot of money. Dong Jian took out a piece of paper from the folder next to him, glanced at it, and said, the 400 million foreign exchange special approval index, we still have to see it, and find out. I know it in my heart. If he comes with sincerity, then everything is easy to say. If he uses the original routine, let him go back. Then I'll arrange for him tomorrow, Director Tong asked. There will be a meeting tomorrow, just now. Then I'll go to him and let him wait in the reception room. No, I'm going to look for him, isn't it in a restaurant? As the so-called nest of snakes and rats, the people he came here to look for must be similar to him, and there are many people who take advantage of the policy. Mayor Zhou is called, Dong Jian ordered. What? Director Tong is a little dumbfounded. Are you looking for him? Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 755. Director Tong couldn't understand why Dong Jian took a group of leaders to find Lu Feng. From the point of view of their identities, the two were also very different. What Director Tong didn't know was how important GFN Electronics was now. There was such a unique seedling in private enterprises across the country, and he personally brought people to express his attention. Another reason is that he has something to do tomorrow, so he can talk about it while he is free now. There are various reasons. A minibus departed from the municipality and went straight to the Crystal Palace Hotel. The atmosphere in the car was very good. 5 or 6 people chatted and laughed about Lu Feng. Is this a spring outing? Ha 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 ha. When I came back after the new year, I didn't take my mind back. I saw a few people in the office were still talking about playing mahjong. However, does it seem inappropriate for our group to find Lu Feng? You can't think about it this way. It seems that we attach great importance to it. If GFN Electronics can settle down in our place, it will also be a model. It is a very good opportunity to call on other private enterprises to follow him and learn from him. Everyone nodded in succession. They still didn't expect this level of consideration. You must know that when these people go to meet the chairman of a private enterprise in person, it is a matter of putting gold on their faces. This is an official identity. In the banquet hall, Lu Feng was smoking a cigarette, and the atmosphere at the scene was a little stiff. Except for the 2 cross-talkers not far away, they were still trying to adjust the atmosphere. Li always couldn't understand why it was so difficult to make some money for himself. He doesn't have to worry about anything, and the money will be directly credited to the account. Do you want to work for him? In the final analysis, this group of people are mixed according to the Lu Feng model. In their hearts, Lu Feng is still very prestigious. He is regarded as an existence that everyone in the circle looks up to, and it is a kind of spiritual totem for them. Mr. Lu, I really don't know what you think. I want to help you. I can see the purpose of your visit today. You just want to eat alone. Mr. Li looked at Lu Feng and sneered, I'll tell you, as long as you hang out in this world, you can't eat alone. Do you really think that if we come to have a meal, we will be able to talk? What? Lu Feng looked at him and found that what these people understood was different from what he understood. Don't take us for fools. Today, let me tell you the truth, we have specially studied your routines. It is the same as it is to enclose the land and take policy money. I have told you, here I am. I have connections and can help you take care of everything. Mr. Li stared at Lu Feng and frowned. Do you have to earn the last coin? No, no, you misunderstood. I took the land and the funds supported by the policy for the development of the enterprise and the investment in research and development. You are also very rich now. Sitting in such a luxurious restaurant to eat, how many people are there now? You still can't get enough to eat. When it comes to money, you are already successful. Lu Feng clapped his hands and said to everyone present, from the point of view of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, you will not worry about food and drink for the rest of your life. Yes, what's the use of more money? It's just a bunch of numbers. I hope everyone can put their money, not expecting you to invest in research and development, at least open a factory and provide some jobs. The people present laughed when they heard this, and the 2 cross-talkers were almost amused. Li Hong couldn't help but said, Mr. Lu has a high profile, it's useless to ask for money, right? Then you donate it all. You hold a lot of money and don't let it go, but you are fooling us here. We look like, aren't you stupid? No, I want you to put your money where it should go. Just now, Mr. Li said, I have cheated on the policy. I don't have it. I have always been eager to upgrade the country's industry and help the entire electronics industry. This time when I came to your land, I also wanted to open a factory and expand production. Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said, what do you guys do? I know in my heart, we are not from an industry, understand? Ha 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 ha. The scene burst into laughter. The industry patriarch betrayed the industry. This is simply laughable and generous. Mr. Lu, I can't compare to you in terms of flicking alone, which may be the reason why I can only limit myself to the local area, while you can bloom all over the country. No matter what you say, I'm sure about one thing right now. If you want to come here to make money, you have to bring this group of people with you. Mr. Lee slapped the table with his hand and shouted, "You can't get around." Su Yorong felt that it was useless to continue entanglement here, and whispered to Lu Feng, "Let's find an excuse to go, first contact the municipal people, and then make a decision. It's not too late to turn around and look for them." Lu Feng nodded secretly, agreeing with Su Yorong's statement. Outside the banquet hall, Dong Jian and his party were gloomy. Director Tang's forehead was already sweating. They stood at the door and listened for 2 minutes. They were very clear about whether to continue the current policy support. "I also understand the reason why the response is not strong when so much money, policies, land, and tax exemptions go on. Sometimes the problem is as simple as no one is telling you the truth." The door was pushed open, Dong Jian walked inside with a gloomy expression, and the others followed in stride. Someone broke in outside, and the other 2 tables quickly noticed it and looked at the people who came in. Mr. Lee smoked a cigarette and glanced at the door casually. The next second, he was stunned. Someone had already stood up at this table. Mr. Lee hurriedly threw the cigarette into the wine glass, stood up and said, "Secretary Dong? You. Why are you here?" "Hello Mayor Zhou." Lu Feng turned around and saw a group of people standing behind him. He hurriedly stood up. Su Yorong stood up and moved back a little, standing out of everyone's sight, making little movements that no one noticed. "You are Mr. Lu of GFN Electronics, right?" Dong Jian looked at Lu Feng, thinking that Tan was really young. "Yes, I'm Lu Feng. Hello hello." Lu Feng hurriedly stretched out his hand to shake hands with everyone one by one. He didn't expect the other party to bring so many people to his dinner, and was a little flattered for a while. "Director Tong told me that you are very young. I thought it was 35 or 16, but now it seems that I underestimated you," Dong Jian said with a smile. "The main reason is that the national policy is good, and I also seized the opportunity." Lu Feng politely. "When did you come?" "No one told me." "I didn't go out to greet you," Mr. Lee said nervously. "I am Li Wanyan from Wanli Commerce. I just stood at the door and listened to it for a while. You kid has a very unique point of view. Some ways are easy to understand. The country is busy with industrial upgrading, so you are doing this kind of thing." Dong Jian's face was gloomy and he scolded, "The money he policy is used to raise elite soldiers and generals, not to raise sizable rats. You look like a person, so you do this kind of thing." Mr. Lee said with a terrified expression, "No, Mr. Lu and I are just chatting." "Isn't it? I heard it just now, haven't you? You kid, you are full of bad water." Dong Jian looked around and said, "And you guys, I was looking at it today, but I had an accident." "Reward?" Lu Feng stood aside and said, "This is true, not only in Tianjin, but all over the country. This problem is more prominent. The country's heart is good, but some people took advantage of it. I am deeply committed to this kind of practice." "Absolutely." Mr. Lee was scolded and lowered his head. Hearing Lu Feng's words, he couldn't help but raise his head and glance at him, thinking in his heart, "Where did you get the face to say this, bro? Mr. Lu deserves to be an outstanding innovative private entrepreneur in the country, but his ideological realm is different," Mayor Zhou praised. "This is a must. Such a good opportunity, for many people, is the greatest opportunity in life. I have always been adhering to a grateful heart, moving forward silently, and I also know that some people in the industry are doing bad things. But I can't control it, I can only do my best." Lu Feng sighed with a sigh. Such a sluggish development like GFN Electronics, the hard-working skills and solid foundation are really not many, and now they are all over the place. Popular to make quick money. Efforts will always pay off. Now you have become an excellent innovative enterprise in the country. If there are more outstanding entrepreneurs like Mr. Lu, I believe the development will be faster." Dong Jian looked at Li at a glance. He instructed Director Tong, who was beside him, check these people for me. For those who have taken the land and don't do anything with the loan, let them return the money to me. Yes, yes, be sure to check, Director Tong said hurriedly. A good business environment can make the company grow better. This is also the original intention of GFN Electronics. It grows together with the city, and under the care of the state, supports the industry. Lu Feng smiled and said, this time, we also feel that Tianjin is a really good city, which complements each other with our corporate development. I heard Director Tong say this. We also welcome powerful companies to settle in. The overall job of the economy this year is to make way for them who have eaten the policy and open a wider way for you. That's great, I can put my heart into my stomach. Before I came here, I was afraid that something might happen, because we attach great importance to this factory. It is best to hope that it will start production this year, Lu Feng said happily. The two of them chatted very happily, and the people standing beside them were a little confused. Everyone was walking the same way. Why is the identity gap suddenly so big? Lu Feng became a positive representative, but he was beaten as a negative character. President Li and Li Hong were full of shock, and the other people's faces were not good looking, as if someone had died in the family. If they really wanted to investigate, there would be a lot of things going on here. Mr. Li listened to the vague words in Lu Feng's mouth, and instantly understood in his heart that this year's policy has changed, and he still sticks to the old method, which naturally won't work. But Lu Feng is different, he has changed his routine, so he is better than himself. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 756. Lu Feng chatted with Dong Jian very much, and Mr. Li had already started brainstorming. What kind of model can continue to grow wool, but it is related to their future? As for the industry and industrial upgrading that Lu Feng said, in his heart, it is just a face that can be changed at any time. If this mask can make them continue to be popular, then these people don't mind turning into Lu Feng. Like this. This is not a place to talk, otherwise we will move to the living room. It just so happens that today the leaders are all there. If Mr. Lu has any concerns, he can say whatever he wants to say. I believe that as long as it can be solved, I will definitely help you. It's solved, Director Tong said. Okay, it's hard work, Director Tong, Lu Feng said politely. Dong Jian and his party went to the meeting room first. No matter what, Lu Feng is now President Li's guest. He should say goodbye to them and watch everyone leave. The scene suddenly became noisy. Still real. Mr. Li now understands that his local advantage is not there. If you want to make money from Lu Feng, you have to lower your posture and say, President Lu, I'm sorry just now, I'm a straight person, you ask you're wrong, she knows. It's still the same sentence, what's the use of it, you can say it, I have always admired you, and I want to follow you. It's not necessary, Lu Feng smiled and said, we are not the same people. I understand what you said. Really, I especially want to serve the people, develop industries and technologies. Okay, Lu Feng didn't want to talk to him anymore. Since the municipal side had already confirmed it, it would be meaningless for him to talk further. After being polite, Lu Feng walked out of the banquet hall door, stopped and looked at Su Yorong and said, don't go there. If something happens, it will be troublesome. I was thinking of asking him to help you, maybe I know someone or something, but I didn't expect this to happen. Su Yorong sighed and said, if people change, it's really fast. Now is not the time to sigh, you should go back to the hotel first. Lu Feng ordered a few words, turned his head to leave, and suddenly bumped into his arms. Both of them were in pain for a while. Lu Feng frowned slightly. Seeing that it was the little black fat man who talked about crosstalk just now, he wondered, why did you bump into it again? Look at it when you walk. Boss, what about your relationship with that boss? Help us with a word. His face was full of helplessness. What's wrong? After the performance, we don't give money. We agreed that it was a church meeting, and we settled the bill on the spot, but people said we didn't say it well. We didn't mention it just now. At noon, our grandfather and I stood there and talked for more than 2 hours. If you don't give me a penny, where am I going to reason? His face was full of sadness, and he looked anxiously into the banquet hall, for fear that Mr. Lee would run away, but he was afraid to go forward and looked at Lu Feng eagerly. How much is it? Lu Feng asked him. $30. Lu Feng took out his wallet from his pocket, flipped through it, took out 200 yuan and handed it to him, saying, I gave it for him. By the way, don't talk too much, it won't catch on. Looking at the 2 great unity in his hand, he hesitated, and said, Boss, they promised to give 30 yuan, which is a bit too much. It's okay, just take it. I support local art, Lu Feng said and walked upstairs. Dong Jian originally meant to win over Jiafeng Electronics. If such a large factory is really put into use, it will definitely explode for local employment and industrial chain pull. From 3 o'clock in the afternoon to the evening, I have entered into a deep discussion on the interests of Shuangfa. Lu Feng's request is very simple: give me 10,000 mu of industrial land, build a factory with special funds to support, and can't make tofu dregs for the project. The specific construction is open for bidding, and Jiafeng Electronics will also send people to supervise the construction. After the construction of the factory area is completed, local cooperation is required in the import of assembly lines, fire protection facilities, and the local business environment. The municipal requirements are that Lu Feng must create many jobs, the factory will enter the production state at the appointed time, and the local price of the products should be cheaper. The first 2 are for the purpose of stabilizing employment, and the final price of the product is cheap, but also for employment. As long as the products of Jiafeng Electronics sell well and there is a price difference between local and other places, there will be second-hand dealers. Ordinary people can set up stalls with any starting capital, or pull the goods to other places to sell. Don't underestimate setting up a stall. Now the biggest expectation for employment is setting up a stall, which is the so-called self-employment. Many local state-owned enterprises are already empty shells, and a group of people are holding iron rice bowls. Because the window of self-employment is not large enough. It was already the 13th day of the first lunar month, and Kevin returned to the Xiangjiang branch to prepare for work. As for what happened in the mainland during the Spring Festival, he just came back a few days ago and told a friend about it. Even if you drink too much, all you tell your friends is, I hope that little guy is lucky. His main task this year should be to promote products in countries such as Thailand and India. At the same time, he hopes to reduce tariffs and improve product competitiveness. If tariffs cannot be reduced, he will decide on other plans based on market-level assessment. Of course, these are all what he thinks he will do this year. It depends on the headquarters meeting on global strategy. Early in the morning, he put on a new suit, sprayed hairspray, and dressed handsomely to the company, pushing his office. The door and saw a man sitting in his place. Whoa! You! Kevin was stunned, and shouted toward the office next to him, Alice! Alice! The office door opened, and a woman in her 30s walked out, looking at him with a puzzled face, as if he shouldn't be here. How many times have I told you? In my office, no one is allowed to enter without my permission, Kevin reprimanded angrily. But he didn't enter your office, Lau Kai. At this time, you can't yell at me like that. I'm not your assistant anymore. Xiaoan rolled his eyes and said, and, my English name is not Alice, it's Ellie. What the hell? It's not my office? It's obviously the CEO's office. After a year, have you left your brain at home? Kevin was already a little crazy, he couldn't bear it anymore, he had to go to work on the first day today. Fire this woman. This is the president's office, but you are no longer the president. You are sick, you obviously resigned yourself, and now you are here to make trouble. Xiao Wenlei was in a good mood, and now he has completely erupted. I resign myself? I resign myself. Kevin couldn't react anymore. He entered the office and saw that everything on the table had been changed, and all his belongings were gone. He asked, "Where are my things?" "There's a garbage dump over there." "It's all there." "It doesn't make sense, it's so unreasonable." "I didn't leave, who told you that I left?" Kevin pressed. Xiaoan couldn't answer this question. David, who was sitting in the president's seat, said, "You left the company yourself, and you scolded the group president, saying that he got on with one leg." "Kevin, do you think you want to see a brain department? I didn't resign." "How is it possible? It's impossible, it's impossible." Kevin frantically recalled that he had never written a resignation letter, stood there arguing with the two for a long time, and finally said unwillingly, "Even if it is I wrote a resignation letter from sleepwalking, and with my work ability and contribution to the group, it is absolutely impossible to pass it, and they will not let me go." Xiaoan and David looked at each other and shrugged. Obviously, he looked up to himself. "I'll call the headquarters." Kevin picked up the phone on the table, called the Berlin headquarters, and the call was transferred to the office of the group executive president. Kevin said, "Mike, it's me, Kevin." "What are you calling for?" Mike was a little speechless when he heard his phone call. "I went to work in the company today, but they said that I had left the company and a new president had arrived." "I want to ask, is there a mistake?" Kevin cautiously probed. "No mistake, since you don't want to do it, let someone else do it." "I didn't say I didn't want to do it, I've been working hard, did I make a mistake?" Kevin still felt incredible. "I'm not mistaken, you sent me an email and a videotape." "What are you doing, don't you know?" The other end of the phone was already impatient. Kevin really wants to cry but has no tears now. He has no impression at all. At such an old age, if he really did it, he would recognize it. The key is that he doesn't remember doing it. "Okay, I'm dying to understand, I haven't done it, but I want to know, is that email sent from my mailbox?" "Where did the videotape come from?" Kevin asked. After 10 minutes of communication on the phone, Kevin heard that the email address was Shenzhen and the videotape was sent from Shenzhen. He vaguely had an answer in his mind. After all, he has not been in contact with many people in Shenzhen recently. Besides Lu Feng, who else is there? After leaving the office, Kevin looked at the corner of the wall where his belongings were placed like a pile of rubbish, and the professional dignity that had lasted for decades was completely disintegrated at this moment. "Lu Feng. I don't share the sky with you." He packed some important things, and after returning to his residence, he wanted to call Lu Feng as soon as possible, but he had long since lost the business card that Lu Feng gave him. In his heart, this is a person who will never meet in the future, but before the 15th day of the first lunar month, he has to go back and settle accounts with him. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 757. The next day, Dong Jian's arrangements were quite full, so he did not receive Lu Feng, and spent most of his time talking with Director Tong. The big frame is determined, and the rest can be said. The entire contract is relatively strict, and the management and control of funds is relatively strict, but fortunately, GFN Electronics does not need to pay for the initial investment. At the same time, Lu Feng chatted with the leaders of China Construction Bureau. If two local construction groups are constructing at the same time, the factory hardware is expected to be there are 8 months to complete. In addition to rain, wind, etc., there is no problem in construction and use for 10 months, but this is the large frame of the main factory area, such as the living area, perfect canteen, etc., and it will take at least 2 years to complete the construction. This is already a very fast speed. It is impossible to calculate the current progress with the construction speed of large machinery in decades. Lu Feng signed a preliminary letter of intent. In 2 days, more than a dozen contracts were signed with the local municipality, and it was featured on the local news network. The important local media evaluated it as another masterpiece of promoting private enterprises and deepening reform. Mr. Lu Feng, an outstanding innovative private entrepreneur, learned and moved closer. It was said that day that President Li and others would be thoroughly investigated, and since then a series of rectifications have indeed been carried out. It is impossible for the economic expressway to stop for this matter. At this time, no one dares to step on the brakes. Only when the economy grows up, it is no longer a problem to have enough food and clothing. Let the economic train slow down, and it is time to settle accounts after the fall. Mr. Li felt very uncomfortable when he read the newspaper. Not only was he uncomfortable, but also many people who used the policy to make them feel uncomfortable. In particular, the sentence of outstanding innovative private entrepreneurs directly hit the lungs of these people. Everyone is a clown, why are you an artist? A group of people began to feel that the general environment has changed, and they need to actively study new routines, especially Lu Feng, which is very important to them. Su Yorong left the next day. First, her visa was about to expire, and second, the company really needed her to go back to work. Lu Feng got along well with Director Tong. After drinking, he returned to the hotel to prepare for a rest. There will be an official signing ceremony tomorrow, and the rest can be left to the people below. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening, and Wei Yandan hadn't gotten off work yet. From time to time, people outside the office looked over there. It seemed that there was something inside that made them particularly curious, and they refused to leave work. Wei Yandan looked helpless at Kevin sitting on the sofa, stood up and said, "Mr. Kevin, I don't know the specifics of the things you said, and Mr. Lu is away now and is on a business trip. It's very late now. You continue to stay here, it's not suitable, you leave a phone call, when President Lu comes back, I will let you know and help you make an appointment, how about it? Don't fool me with that program. What kind of appointment, what business trip, what meeting, you let him come out, don't you dare to do it." This is what people do. Kevin is already a little hysterical, he is still. I didn't dare to tell my wife that I lost my job. Mr. Lu is really not here. If you continue like this, I'll call the security guard to chase him away, Wei Yandan said solemnly. Lu Feng isn't here, right? Du Guoying is always there, right? That Liukan, and what is Dong Dong? When I came, I was a group of people, and now you are here. Are you a liar company? Liars. One group of people, the other group is responsible for cheating, right? Kevin stood up and shouted, "Let those people come out, it's all nurses. That Du Guoying is nurses. Don't talk nonsense, what have we lied to you?" Wei Yandan couldn't stand him yelling. He opened the office door and saw a group of people outside, and said solemnly, "Call the security guard and drive me away. Try to touch me, I won't be finished if Lu Feng doesn't come today, I'll call the police." Kevin picked up the phone on the table and started calling the police. 10 minutes later, people from the police station came. Kevin talked about his experience with snot and tears. No one was worse than him. This year has passed, it's a bit too back, maybe it's the birth of the year. You foreigner know a lot, but tell you, you can't make trouble here, do you know? There is something to coordinate and solve, a policeman persuaded. I'm about to see him. I haven't seen this woman, but I have seen several other people. They are a gang. Kevin insisted that this was a fraud gang. What did they deceive you? Money. They tricked me into losing my job, they helped me write my resignation letter, and I lost my job. Kevin tried hard to tell how much pain he was in. How is that possible? Which unit is someone else who wrote a resignation letter and then resigned? Another policeman said. What I say is true, that's what they do. Then your unit is not good either. Is it possible that they don't want you anymore? The police guessed. This sentence pierced Kevin's heart. Your company's boss is Lu Feng, right? Can someone be contacted outside? Just call and ask. A policeman gave a solution. Wei Yandan is helpless. Her general style of doing things at work is to try to keep the work on her own level and not transfer it up. She first called Lu Cheng and the others to ask if they could contact Lu Feng. After a few rounds, at 10:30 in the evening, she finally got the phone number from the hotel and called. Lu Feng was about to go to bed after taking a shower when the phone rang. He picked it up and said, "Who is it?" "Mr. Lu, it's me, Wei Yandan. Something happened to the company. Do you know a foreigner named Kevin?" Wei Yandan said straight to the point. "Kevin, what's wrong?" Lu Feng wondered. Wei Yandan briefly explained the matter, and Lu Feng heard that this buddy's mood was about to collapse, and this job was indeed very important to him. "You ask him to answer the phone, I'll tell him." "Mr. Lu asked you to answer the phone." Wei Yandan handed the phone to Kevin. Kevin was full of anger. He arrived at the office this afternoon and has been entangled until now. He answered the phone and said gloomily, "Lu Feng, we didn't have a holiday, right? You offered to pay for the camera at that time, and now you are doing this kind of thing. Don't get excited. You are in your 50s at night. What if you get excited? Didn't you tell me at the time to go back and go through the resignation procedures? Du Guoying, I have already accepted it for your sake. I'm still staying at the vice president position." Lu Feng asked him, "I've been thinking about it for 2 days, why are you no news, what's going on?" "I'll just ask you a question, did you send me a resignation email to the Berlin headquarters and a videotape?" Kevin knew that he was wrong, so he didn't mention the previous ones. "If you want to talk like that, I'll just ask you one question. You promised me to resign, why is there no news for a while?" Lu Feng asked him. "I've told you that my resignation process is very troublesome. It takes time and needs someone to take over the job. Besides, it's Chinese New Year. But now the result is, no trouble. How happy. What? It's New Year's Eve in Germany. What year is it now? The year of the donkey? I have a lot of shining points in me, such as honesty." Lu Feng sighed and said, "I'll give you a solution, do you want it? How to deal with it? I'm going to go back the day after tomorrow. You're staying for 2 days. You don't have a job right now. It's the 15th day of the first lunar month. I'll go out with my camera and take pictures of folk culture or something. I'll definitely give you an answer when I go back." Lu Feng turned towards the phone. Said, "There is a premise, that is, don't make trouble in the office, do you hear it? As you said, I'll give you a solution the day after tomorrow, I'll wait for you." Kevin's tone was full of anger, as if Lu Feng was coming back for a fight. After hanging up the phone, Kevin went out directly, and then he waited for Lu Feng, and he was not panicking. He even suspects that Du Guoying is with Lu Feng. As for what they want to do, he doesn't know yet, but there is one direction that can be guessed, and that is to win him over to join GFN Electronics. The next morning, a signing ceremony was held on the official settlement of GFN Electronics' largest factory in Tianjin. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the city leaders came to the stage and delivered a speech, expressing the introduction of GFN Electronics, setting a model for local private enterprises, and playing a leading role. Look forward to. After the factory is completed, it will be able to accommodate 100,000 people, and it is planned to introduce the most advanced assembly lines to reach the international manufacturing level. Lu Feng said some words to the reporter, and then closed the curtain with warm applause. After having a meal at noon, it stands to reason that Lu Feng can return in the afternoon, but unfortunately there is no flight in the afternoon, so he went back to the hotel and slept, only to wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Having nothing to do, I happened to go for a walk in Tianjin. Lu Feng took a taxi to the city center. There were still many people. There were many high-rise buildings and shopping centers in the city center. There were fountains in the square, which looked peaceful. Below the shopping center are rows of stores with huge letters on the doors, selling all kinds of things, such as marijuana flowers, gaobuli, etc. There are still many electronic products around. Lu Feng even saw the signs of Vipta and Golden Leopard at the entrance of the supply and marketing building. There was a light sign at the entrance of a small shop next door. He was about to go in and have a look when a man suddenly stood in front of Lu Feng. He was 1.9 meters tall, with a burly stature and wearing a black leather coat. His face looked a bit dazed. He grinned at Lu Feng and put the coat opened and asked, "Do you want a pager?" The inner lining of his fur coat was sewn with something like trouser buttons, and all the pagers were pinned to it. At a glance, it looked like there were 20 or 30. "Don't worry, it's definitely not parallel or dirty. It's cheap. You can get a Han Xian for 2,990 yuan. If you go to the store, you'll get 3,000 yuan." The big Han dynasty sold Lu Feng. Lu Feng stared at these pagers, reached out and took off one, and found a sign on the back with the word waveguide written on it. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 758. Lu Feng took the pager in his hand and waited. It was a good job. He asked the big man, "You sound special when you sell goods." City management check. How is it possible? The city management doesn't care about this, it's mainly for convenience. If you set up a stall, it will be difficult to move the place. If you really want it, I'll give you another 50 yuan cheaper, and I won't say anything else. Okay, Han Dynasty Landing Peak Road. I'm just curious, where did you get all this stuff? Bird seems to be a factory in the south, right? Lu Feng asked him. Dude, do you want to buy it? You have to buy something. Instead, it's not suitable for me to talk about it, and you want to do this business too. The big man seemed a little impatient. He could tell Lu Feng no intention to buy. No, I'm just asking casually. I'll definitely buy it. You should be cheaper, Lu Feng said, looking at the pager in his hand. The lowest price, or else, 2008? It can't be any lower. I'm not giving you the 180 yuan. Where did you get the goods from? It's not that you want to steal your business. Brother, let me tell you the truth. I know this waveguide factory, and the prices in the factory are very high. It's cheap. Lu Feng looked familiar to me and said, I came here to check the situation. I'm going to be an agent, and I will get you cheap goods when the time comes. Really or not? The big man looked up and down at Lu Feng. Not quite right. Look, do I have to lie to you? Bird's boss is surnamed Wang, my good brother. The factory is in Ningbo, and we are very familiar with it. How much is your purchase price? Lu Feng asked him. You buy it first, and I'll tell you. What should I do if you bargain with me after I say it? He was also very clever. Lu Feng took out his wallet from his coat, took out $100 and handed it over, and said, I don't need a pager. I'll give you the $100, this time, right? The big man took the money and checked the real money and the fake money. Let me tell you, the price of this machine is 2,750, and everyone else's is 2,800. I know a buddy who has a very strong relationship, and if you get more at one time, it will be cheaper. The big man lowered his voice mysteriously. Said. You hang so much in your clothes, and the cost is quite a lot. Your small 100,000 yuan is hung on the clothes. Lu Feng looked at him and asked, is it a good deal? This is also the reason why we don't set up a stall. It's expensive, and I'm really afraid that people will rob it. It's not easy to sell now. It was easy to sell before the new year. It sold 10 units a day. Who doesn't want to be stylish when they go home for the new year? Isn't it? Winked at him. Lu Feng chatted with Dehan for more than half an hour, and still learned a lot of useful information. The price of pagers in the terminal market fluctuates greatly. The market of Motorola, Panasonic, and Ericsson has been disturbed, and the demand is not as strong as before. Bird's low-cost entry has injected a little vitality. The pattern of price war has been formed. Without Lu Feng, this price war will finally achieve the final result with the overwhelming victory of waveguide. Lu Feng found out that the waveguide is completely wholesale, with no after-sales service at all, and there are no middlemen. The entire product distribution chain is very long. If it can be controlled by himself, the terminal price can be even lower. Lu Feng went to a store and asked. The price of the same model is more than 200 yuan higher than that of Dehan. It's going to be bought back and it's broken. What should I do? Who should I go to? Lu Feng asked the boss. Don't worry, we're going to buy things, it's definitely no problem. If something goes wrong within a month, I'll fix it for you. See it, there's a repair place next to it. The boss pointed to a stall next to it. In the middle of the two it is separated by a waist-high wooden plank. The store next door is a young couple. It seems that they should have just got married. The little girl is very stocky, sitting there to pack a fish, and it looks like she is going to eat fish at night. Why, you've had a good time, this little young man. The boss sat there smoking a cigarette and teased, if you look for a man, you have to find someone who can make money. This year is over, and you still eat fish. The little girl named Hui raised her head and said, I made money. Don't let me eat something good, just relying on our old Sue's skill in repairing pagers, he will not worry about money in this life. Lu Feng sat there and laughed. Now he has the skill of repairing pagers. It is indeed a well-off family. If the world is not changed, they can indeed eat for a lifetime. At 5 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng returned to the hotel and first called Lu Cheng. On the phone, Lu Cheng told Lu Feng that all the tests of the 100 pagers were stable at present, not to mention that they were produced in March, and there is no mass production now. Question. If it's mass production, wait a moment. Now, is it time to change some external designs? Lu Feng asked towards the phone. Now, Lu Cheng was really helpless. It was all set, and President Lu suddenly wanted to change it, but he didn't dare to say anything, so he could only mumble, all the design drawings are completed, the machine data is also designed, there is no big deal. Influence, I think, can be changed. I'll go back for a meeting tomorrow, and I'll go out for a walk today. I can't just fight a price war, but I need to improve the competitiveness of my products. Let's go back and talk about it. It is good. After hanging up the phone, Lu Cheng's face was a little wrinkled. He sighed and muttered, in my last life, I committed murder and arson, and I am doing product development in this life to atone for it. It was already night, and the lights in Shi Watanabe's office were still on. There was a market report on the Greater China region on the table. He had been looking at it for several hours. The report also detailed the rise of Bird, but Jiro Nakata expressed confidence in Motorola's brand strength in the report. The analysis report of GFN Electronics is less than 1 page in length. For the entire group, the market share of Greater China is not large, and the largest share is in places such as Singapore. As for the mainland area, it is really barren. The key countries are Thailand and Singapore, which are economically developed places. Watanabe started typing on the keyboard. He hopes that the headquarters will increase investment in the mainland area. The reason for this is that through his research and judgment, the economy of the mainland area will show explosive growth in the next 10 years, and the demand will be extremely high. Big mainland local companies are rising rapidly and need to be suppressed quickly. Among them, GFN Electronics is the focus. It hopes to increase market promotion and reduce the price of products in the end market. At the same time, it is hoped that high-level funds will be allocated to increase investment. Watanabe she didn't really see the potential of the mainland area, but in order to make the senior management of the group pay attention and sign the application faster, he made up a lot of data, and what data looked scary, he wrote on it what data. Whether the economy of the mainland region is strong or weak, here is a business. When it is weak, it is absolutely weak, and when it is strong, it is absolutely frightening. At the same time, he sent an email to Jiro Nakata, telling him that an unprecedented business war is about to start, and we will attack the entire mainland market with an unrivaled attitude, not only killing local companies, but also cleaning up Panasonic and Ericsson. It is already 10 o'clock in the evening, and the machines in the bird's workshop are still turning. This year has been quite exciting for Suliwa and the four of them. The sales of birds pagers are still showing explosive growth. But there are still a steady stream of people who come to buy. In the office, Suiboy was sitting on the desk, holding the financial ledger in his hand, with an unstoppable smile on his lips. He said to the three of them, "This month is not a low season, and now the sales have exceeded 50 million, there are still 10 days, and there is no problem with the sales of 80 million, which is still limited by insufficient production capacity. I'm going, the speed of the money is incredible. Didn't we sell 90 million last month? How much can we have? We have 20% of the shares, 18 million, and we have to deduct the cost. It is estimated that 1.8 million per person is no problem," Suliwa said happily. The four of them became millionaires in just 2 months. Not to mention now, it is also an exciting thing to push back decades. But they were a little unhappy. With sales of 80 million yuan a month, about 30 to 40 million yuan was invested in the back and forth. All the raw materials and labor were put aside, and there were 20 to 30 million yuan of profit in a single month, but they only got so much. You must know that this is the peak period, and the end of the new year is the off-season. With the increase in market competition, the profit point will be compressed. It is not easy to earn so much. They saw a bigger world and longed for a bigger world. At least we have stood our ground, and the most important thing is to keep the company alive. Without the technical and financial support from Xiangjiang, we would not be where we are today. Now is not the time to share money, but to solve the biggest crisis at present. After GFN Electronics rushed in, what should we do? Suliwa is quite calm, he knows that the biggest challenge facing now is GFN Electronics. Everyone felt a little depressed when they heard this. The current GFN Electronics is like the canary that was pressed on Lu Feng's head back then. Its power is daunting. If you have any ideas, talk about it. I have always believed that this wholesale sales method is not conducive to brand growth. If a company wants to go further, it must have sufficient brand management. This wholesale model will lead to end customers. Our opinions are mixed, and we will be very passive in the face of the market, Pug said solemnly. I agree with this. Facing the pressure of GFN Electronics, it is also because of its sales channels, especially in the township market. GFN's sales channels, even Changhong, have to shy away. Su Guangzi pondered for a while and continued, build more. Whether it is a dealer model or a direct operated store, we should go to the market, and at the same time, we should also establish a brand, advertise on CCTV, and diversify our products. Diversification of products, that's not the model of GFN Electronics. They produce everything now, except for refrigerators and washing machines, and they need to open a clothing factory, Sui Bo exclaimed. The profit of the garment factory is small, but if the profit is larger, do you think he will not do it? Everyone was chatting, and the only thing that was similar was that they were going to GFN electronic mode. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 759. The GFN electronic model is absolutely refreshing for enterprises in this era. In the 1990s, most of the private enterprises were family-owned enterprises. He opened a factory by himself, called all the 3 aunts and 8 aunts over, and invested $1 and $1 to do it, and he was reliable. This is why Lu Feng was constantly being chased by his relatives and classmates and asked if he could help him in the factory. The GFN model is also a debt management model, with multi-industry development, which can form a large-scale group in a short period of time. This is very attractive to many young people who want to become a national up-and-coming figure within a few years. The next day, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the plane stopped at Bao'an Airport. Lu Feng walked out of the exclusive passage. A man in his 30s greeted him and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, I'm here to pick you up." Lu Feng nodded and got into the car. For the past 2 days, Kevin has been staying in the company. He just remembered one thing, stalking him. This time he had to ask why, and let Lu Feng compensate him. Entering the headquarters, the little girl in the reception saw Lu Feng and hurriedly said, "Hello, Mr. Lu." Good, Lu Feng agreed casually. "Mr. Lu, someone has been making troubles here these days. President Wei can't do anything about it? He said he was looking for you." "Come and see." The little girl at the front desk was a little anxious. Obviously, the news had spread throughout the company. It's still there now, Lu Feng stopped and wondered. Every day, he comes when we go to get off work, and he leaves when we get off work, like a rogue. Another reception girl was speechless. "Okay, I see," Lu Feng said and walked towards the elevator. On the 5th floor, Lu Feng got out of the elevator. There were constant greetings from all around. Lu Feng kept responding and walked towards Wei Yanden's office. When he arrived at the door, he knocked on the door. "Come in," Wei Yanden's voice came from the office. Lu Feng opened the door and walked in, and saw Wei Yanden sitting on the sofa in the reception hall divided by the office. "Mr. Lu, are you back?" Wei Yanden said and stood up. Kevin's mood has calmed down a lot in the past 2 days, but when he saw Lu Feng coming back, his heart instantly rushed to his head. He stood up and shouted, "Lu Feng, how dare you come back? I thought you were hiding outside." Seeing his appearance of asking for guilt, Lu Feng said solemnly, "Why don't I dare to come back? This is my company." "This is your company, but what did you do? Why did you leave the job for me?" Kevin became more and more excited as he spoke, exclaiming, "Is there someone like you? What does it mean to be a man? Is it something that people do? If you want to be so noisy, I'll have a humming fight with you today." Lu Feng put the briefcase on the table and shouted in a loud voice, "You are such a big man, and you have the face to quarrel with me? You want face, no? You're so kind to come too. You are a liar." Kevin pointed his finger at Lu Feng's face and scolded indignantly, "Big liar. Who the hell lied to you?" "What did I lie to you?" Lu Feng took a step forward and shouted loudly, "Tell me, what did I lie to you? You and that Du Guoying are in the same group. Don't think I'm stupid. I know that you two cheated on me together. Let me tell you, I will go to court to sue you. During this period of time without income, you have to support me and my wife." Kevin yelled. The voices of the two were too loud, like a shrew scolding the street. Wei Yanden was a little overwhelmed when he stood there, and when people outside were in the mood to work, they all listened with their ears open. "I still keep you and your wife? Are you embarrassed? Who said that he wanted to come to work in my company? Was it you? From Malagoba, you humming lied to me and bit back. Lu Feng grew angrier as he spoke, glared at Kevin, turned around, opened his briefcase, took out his lighter and cigarette, and lit one. Did I tell you that I was dead? I was talking about going back and resigning. Why, I sold it to you. Kevin seemed to have found the reason and shouted. Then you resigned? If you don't resign, I'll resign for you. Don't coax me into a 3-year-old child. I tell you, this is what I did. You go to court to sue me, right? Go. Go ahead. Lu Feng held the cigarette between his 2 fingers, pointed to the door and shouted, you enter through the front door, and I enter through the back door. Do you believe it? Hearing this, Kevin stopped talking. He couldn't fight against others, and now he was yelling just to get some compensation, and since his job was gone, if Lu Feng was willing to pay a high salary, he would be willing to stay. Anyway, I lost my job because of you. I am a victim, and you must compensate me. Kevin simply played a rogue. What are you talking about? Are you a victim? Lu Feng looked at him and said, what kind of shit are you? Playing a rogue with me? Do you want money? Do you think I can give it to you? Don't think that I don't know about the mainland. Let me tell you, if you want to start a company, you have to be good. Anyway, I don't have a job now, so I will make trouble and let the police mediate. If it doesn't work, I will find some reporters to expose you. Kevin snorted coldly and sat on the sofa and said, do you really think I'm a dry eater? When I go to any country, I'll figure out some local rules. I'll tell you this, if I'm in a hurry, I'll pull up a banner. Lying at the door of your company, I'm shameless at best. Lu Feng was almost enraged when he heard what he said. This person can do it. His work ability is outstanding, especially the local research. He has done in-depth research. Since you're going to talk to the mud, let's have a good talk. We won't talk about who's wrong and who's right. I'll give you a solution. Lu Feng walked over and sat down and said. Kevin snorted coldly when he saw that he was subdued. He really thought he had no means, and now he is obedient to compensate, right? You say a plan. I will provide you with a job here. You will be responsible for the overseas market. The maximum salary will give you an annual salary of $500,000 plus equity dividends, but there is a precondition, that is, to develop the overseas market this year and do what I have said. The goal is to offer the $400,000 bonus, plus the equity. If you can't do it, leave with $100,000. Lu Feng looked at him and said, how? In other words, you only give me an annual salary of $100,000, but you want to hire a person in charge of global strategic market expansion with an annual salary of $500,000. Kevin did not agree. He would never agree to this price, and said solemnly, there are so many companies I can choose from. I can find a suitable job at BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota. That's your business. Lu Feng took a puff of cigarette and said, since you don't want to stay, then give us the compensation from our company. Compensation? Why should I compensate you? Kevin cried. Before you promised to join our company and be in charge of the overseas market, so this position has been reserved for you. During the Chinese New Year, no one cares about the overseas market. You can compensate for the loss, not much, a few $100 million. Lu Feng Mian looking at him blankly. You corrupted me. Kevin stood up and said, I want to get my compensation. If you don't agree, I will follow the method I just said. You're cheating tricks. It's not that there are no countermeasures in the mainland area. I have been running a factory for many years, and I have met more rogues than you. Those people are even more sophisticated than you. Lu Feng raised his head and looked at him, grinning. Guess what happened to them later? What's wrong? Kevin had a bad feeling in his heart. I spent the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I know your status as a foreigner, but you were in a car accident and fell into a sewer while you were walking. We shouldn't be blamed for this kind of thing, right? Lu Feng looking at him, he sneered. Kevin froze in place and said solemnly, "You threaten me." "That's right. What can you do?" Lu Feng smiled and put out the cigarette butt in the ashtray, and said, "I'll give you two paths now. No, there's only one path left. Join us, the future is bright, GFN Electronics can make you shine internationally." Kevin is a person who knows the general situation. He has also seen it in various countries. At this point, he can only nod his head and say, "Okay, then I will go through the entry procedures tomorrow." "Don't forget tomorrow, just today," Lu Feng instructed Wei Yandan, "let the person in charge of the group's personnel department come over and handle the onboarding procedures for him." A few minutes later, 7 or 8 people came and put a stack of contracts on the table. "Sign it, change the last page, and change the salary to an annual salary of us $100,000. The bonuses and equity awards are clearly written, as well as liquidated damages." Lu Feng looked at Kevin and said, "The liquidated damages are just a process, don't take it to heart, this thing is basically useless, just write it casually. Just write $1 billion. The new contract was quickly printed out. Surrounded by a group of people, Kevin had to write his name. He didn't want to think about anything now, he just wanted to leave quickly. After signing the contract, a smile appeared on Lu Feng's face, he put his arm around Kevin's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, our company is relatively good in overseas markets. Besides, if you join, you are a brother. I can treat you badly. About you. Then can I go now?" Kevin looked at him and asked. "It's already 11 o'clock, let's have a meal." "Oh, don't be so sullen, we are related, right, let's go and have a drink." Lu Feng pulled him, like a buddy, with their hands basically around Kevin's shoulders. The two of them left the office and went downstairs. In a Western restaurant, Lu Feng asked for a few bottles of red wine and ordered a lot of dishes. He knew that the stick had been used up, and it was time to give sweet dates. "As for me, I apologize to you. Some things, some words, are indeed too much to say and too much to do. But I hope you can understand me, our company really lacks talents like you. For you, as far as the peak of the industry is concerned, I am really flattered to be able to work in our small company. The salary is really easy to say, I have never been a stingy person, you can ask. It's just that you just joined. The company can't give too much. Other executives will gossip. No matter what you do, the bonus will be given to you at the end of the year. To express my apology, I will drink one." Lu Feng was very sincere, raised the goblet and touched the glass with him, pressed the glass down low, and then drank it. Seeing him like this, Kevin's anger dissipated a lot. After all, he was playing tricks on him at first, but now he is so sincere. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website.